Hello, welcome. I'm here with my friend Ben Wolff, the Breathing Institute, my teacher, dare I say it. I attended his teacher training in his breathing techniques a while back. It's had a huge impact on my life, and it's having an impact on my work as a therapist. Ben, I wanted to ask you a few questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, lovely, Anthony. Thank you for inviting me.
Good. Well, I know just by looking at your bio, you're a yoga teacher. You're a dream yoga practitioner. Maybe we'll have time to get to that. But principally, your thing is breath. So tell me a little bit about how you came to this work, this particular focus.
Thank you. I came to this work by this particular focus through my disregard of the importance of the breath. So my thing was, when I was training to be a yoga teacher, I was really annoyed by the breath. It was an irritant because there were so many things to concentrate on about where you put your arms and your legs and this alignment and that alignment. And a yoga teacher would say, inhale as you go into the pose. I'd never give you an exhale. So you would they would go on and talk about something else. You go, am I still in? All of this stuff. It was like, oh, this cannot be important. And particularly when Pilates, which I thought was the same as yoga, pretty much, I did. And they had a completely different way of breathing. They would say, breathe out through the mouth and make these pursed lips and go and all this stuff. And I was thinking, if this mattered, there wouldn't be any discrepancy.
Right.
So even when I started, I was going, look, I don't care if you breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. If you breathe in through the nose, we'll call it yoga. If you breathe out through the mouth, we call it Pilates, shall we? So It was like this flippancy thing. And I knew quite a lot about neuroscience, and breath and neuroscience weren't big friends at the time. There was not much. So another reason to think that this was unimportant. As recently as 1999, I know it doesn't sound recent, but the editor of the New England Medical Journal, which is like the American Lancet, said, that breath plays no part in health, that this was, a response to health, nothing to do with it, not causing anything. It's almost like this kind of weird artifact. It seems a bit strange now, but that's only 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So the Western research was clearly in its infancy, and had kind of ignored it. So I was really amazed when I went to the first Yoga and Neuroscience conference in 2012 and heard this doctor, clinical psychiatrist, Dr. Richard Brown, from he's associate professor in New York, one of the universities in New York, and he came on stage and he said, there's a rate that the human adult is designed to breathe at. It's 5 breaths a minute, and I can prove it. Because at that rate, the brain waves sync up with the heart, sync up with the digestive pulse, sync up even with the activity of the muscles. So that's EEG with ECG, with EGG and EMG in terms of the galvanized skin response and what we're measuring here. And he said it takes the system to a place of coherence and resonance, the sweet spot,
right,
where at the very least, healing can resume. And I had this moment of indignation. In the neuroscience of enlightenment, they say there are 5 things that qualify for an enlightened experience or for an enlightenment. And that is openness, clarity, intensity, surrender to something bigger than yourself, and permanent change.
Right.
And I had all these 5, but there was no hallelujah. It was just rage. I was stood up and I was like, what? There's a number and you lot didn't tell me?
Right.
I could have helped thousands of people. And you lot kept that, what? And then from there, that was the breakthrough, and my life changed, and I haven't done anything else since, really, apart from count to 6.
So you mentioned 5 breaths per minute, and I know, from the training I've done with you that essentially equates to what you sometimes call, I think you call 6-6 breathing, or at least that's what I've been calling it. So, feels like I could write your method on the back of a postage stamp and still have room for a little haiku. in through the nose and out through the nose, in for 6 seconds, out for 6 seconds. One thing I read of yours, apologies if I misquote, you said this breath, there is none more essential and none simpler, or something along those lines, which I loved. So tell me a little bit more about this 6-6.
Yeah. So there's lots of things that happen at 6-6, this rate. This eminent neuroanatomist, Bud Craig, who discovered the pain pathway, where all pain was experienced in the brain through lamina 1 in the spine. It goes up to the right front insula, and this guy is immense. It doesn't really make it easy to follow, but that's not his job. His job is to be thorough. And anyway, he presented a paper to the Royal Society of Biology in 2016, which showed that breathing at this rate gave a left hemisphere of the brain dominance over the right hemisphere, and that to breathe at this rate demonstrably boosted pleasant affect, and to breathe faster demonstrably demonstrated unpleasant affect as it moved towards the right hemisphere and parasympathetic bias. So I was thinking, God, that's important if you want to make people feel better. Is he for? And of course he's for real. Of course he's for real. And he's not the only one that can prove this. This is easily proved. And in my own personal research, so I did about 700 hours of brainwave EEG work to see what's happening in the physiology of consciousness. When we go into hypnosis, when we go into therapy, when we go into dream, when we go into meditation, what's going on? Is there anything we can even say about this? Anything meaningful at all? And I found there were some meaningful things. And at first I was looking to see where I was going when I did this. And could I get back there on demand? Was there anything that would get me there? Could I teach anybody else to get there by doing what I did? So this was kind of the puzzle that I was looking to address, not expecting to find anything. And yet, when I did this breathing at 6-6, the dominant brainwave, not the only brainwave, the dominant brainwave had a peak at the alpha theta border around 7.8 hertz, which others, not me, but others have described in the science as the flow state. I'm going, this is kind of important. There's Stephen Kosslyn at Harvard is big. Is it Stephen Kosslyn? It is, the flow jackers. Yeah, they're looking at jacking flow.
Right.
And they go on about this. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi was the guy that originated the psychology of flow. I'm going, hang on a minute. We're going there. We're going there.
Right.
This is important. But it isn't, you're right, Ant, absolutely. It's postage stamp teaching in one way. And that gets you close.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get you quite there. And it depends. If you're people like us who are looking to not only get there ourselves, but we're looking to get other people there, we have to have a bit more specificity if we're looking to get the brain to be at its most plastic.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that hooks me in to this aspect of your world anyway. So we are collaborating on a workshop that sounds quite specific, in that we are aiming this workshop at therapists. So it's only a couple of hours. They're going to be introduced to 6-6. They're going to have a variety of experiences of it. But am I right in thinking that is an effort to lead them there rather than to, send them out into the world as teachers? The workshop.
I think so. I mean, if there is interest, maybe you and I will go on to that and get them to a place where they could. I mean, so my first thought was, when we were discussing this, was the thought of making or helping therapists be better therapists.
Yeah.
That was the first thought. And then when we asked the question, rather you asked the question, what is it that you would like from the breath, if it could do anything for you? And it became clear that one way to make therapists better therapists is to make therapists feel better as therapists.
Yes, the words calm, clarity, focus, all this stuff kind of came
Energy, it all kept on
over and over again. So.
Over again. And it's like, okay, let's get you better so that you can make people better. And if you understand how you've got better, you'll understand how to get them better too. Absolutely. So I think that's kind of the way around. And I was thinking about, if I was doing a session with you, because I'd like to do my sycophant bit, if I may, if you'll forgive me, because you've been an amazing influence on my life. Oh, stop.
Interesting.
Stop. But the point is that with reality as plastic, and how you debunk, well, not debunked, but you explored with the AI model, what's necessary here? What's doing anything? What are our active ingredients? And I've absolutely applaud that approach, and I'm very consistent with adopting it myself for my stuff. So when we get to the absolute redux of the automatic imagination or involuntary imagination, you can postage stamp it. That you give people that stamp.
Sure.
They're not done.
Yeah.
They've just got a stamp. And that's a bit like the 6-6 thing. So I was thinking that how I start to do this now is, if I was doing a session for someone who I loved very much, what would I tell them? And that's how I go about it now. It's like, what would I really wish them to know if they mattered to me?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm looking to do now, is go, okay, I might only have 5 minutes of your time. Can I give you my big hitters? Can I give you the things that will make a difference to you? And you can take them or leave them, but then I've done a bit of drawing your attention to them.
Absolutely. And therapists, need help right now, or they're feeling the pressure, the urgency of what's happening. Before we move on, I just want to revert back a little to, you mentioned Bud Craig. I've been diving into his videos and papers very slowly, because there's a lot of new words for me to take in. But it's introduced me to the Insula. You've been mentioning this little character in the story for a while. Now I feel like I'm actually getting to know it and falling in love with my Insula. It's very strange. I've got this little image. It's almost like, and maybe it's a kind of a reference to the little macaques, which have invested so much in it. But if you imagine a kind of walnut with two twin macaque monkeys, one on either side, this is essentially my Insula. And occasionally one of them comes out and the other one goes down. So that's how I'm kind of seeing my Insula now, in that it just makes so much sense to me all of a sudden. Even things like an inner child, which have never made sense to me before. Suddenly, even that makes sense to me in terms of this Insula. So essentially a part of the brain hidden deep inside the brain, so it's evaded, you know, a great deal of study until recent years. But suddenly, you know, a quick search on Google Scholar, it's everywhere in terms of, you know, giving us, you know, a read of the body in any given moment, pain, decision making. Like it seems so important. It seems, according to Bud Craig's work and others, that simply slowing our breathing goes some way to soothing this. I just love it. Tell me more about the insula.
So, okay, so forgive me for stepping a tiny bit ahead of the science, if you don't mind. But let me be clear that I'm just going to go to conjecture, if I may. I expect science to bear this out, and science bears out much of it, but I go a little bit too far. So I'm just making that clear here. Speculation. So the insula is, in essence, our introception, our interior experience. Bud calls it how you feel right now.
Right.
That's your insula. And the right front insula, anterior insula, right front insula, is the key player in this, in that is because there is this kind of negative parasympathetic bias in the brain. It is kind of, we default there.
Right.
And we certainly encourage the right side bias in the bicameral brain with a faster rhythm of breathing, no doubt. Where I go a little bit beyond, but not quite as far as Francis Crick, who discovered DNA, who at his dying days was working on this and was working on consciousness, which is where all Nobel prize winners go after their Nobel Prize. Then they start consciousness because they don't have to risk their reputation, they've made it. So they all graduate to consciousness afterwards. And Crick had a view that there was a specific part of the insula called the claustrum that was where consciousness was, because this is a tiny bit that's hugely connected in a really random way, and that exists within the insula. So that's what Crick says, and I know that V.S. Ramachandran supports that view, and I think Christoph Koch and some of these really eminent neuroscientists do. I don't know about that, but what I do think is a way of thinking about the insula is where body meets brain. And I, Ben, not science, Ben calls that mind.
Right.
So I consider the insula to be your mind, because if you change how the insula is doing and how it's feeling and how it's buzzing, and if you soothe it, you change your mind. You change your body and you change your brain, you change your feels and you change your thinks. Because if your feelings change about something, you think something differently about it, don't you? If your feelings change. And my big thing about this would be say, and what's the remote control for the insula? The breath, which means the breath is the remote control to the brain and the remote control for the body. And that's kind of a big thing for a therapist to miss out on.
Absolutely. Wonderful. So, and when I say wonderful, I don't mean interesting. But we could easily get sidelined with that. You know how I'm prone to waffling on about consciousness. But fascinating stuff. So we've spoken about how this can help therapists.
Yeah.
So taking the kind of longer view, you know, why should talking therapists, beyond maintaining themselves, why should they get this in their toolkit?
Okay. Well, if they'd like to be more effective, if they don't wish to be more effective, don't bother. Seriously, stay as you are. But there's this other thing that post-COVID, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but the world's changed. And nobody is unaffected. And if you were an expert in anything before COVID, you are not an expert now in the same way, unless and until you've retrained. You've retrained with a post-COVID awareness. Because believe me, for the next 10 years, that's mainly what GPs are going to be dealing with, and mainly what employers are going to be dealing with, and mainly what people seeking therapy are going to be dealing with, and mainly what's going to be the whole soundtrack to everybody's lives.
So you're talking about the effects of long COVID. Is that right?
I would say that. And that's going to affect everybody. And, you know, obviously for a therapist, if you're seeing people with brain fog and fatigue and they don't know what to do and they've lost their way and they were incredibly fit and now they're not, and this isn't about story. What's really interesting to me is that COVID busts the story, right? Because everybody's been looking at why am I like this? Why is this? Is it because it rained when I was 17? You know, what did I do when I was little? What led to this? You know, you'll see it a lot with autoimmune. Right. They'll be packaged with loads of associations of meanings of what if. It's like migraines. People who suffer from migraines, they're on a Sherlock Holmes, Nancy Drew lifetime mission to find out what's causing this. I mean, they don't look at oxygen at the brainstem, but they look everywhere else. They look at sunlight, they look at coffee, they look at this or that.
Right.
And the thing is, COVID comes along and goes, you don't need a story. You just need to get better. Because we can all play why and look back, but that actually cements now in a bigger associative network of linking that builds it up and makes it more concrete and solid and removes plasticity. So one of the interesting things is nobody is going to be asking, why did I get COVID? Why did I get long COVID? Is it because of my childhood?
Right.
And this is going to move some things because suddenly it didn't discriminate. There was no cause to this effect. You just got it. So that takes away a lot of the things that therapists, talking therapists, have had to their disposal because they've been looking back for explains, rightly or wrongly. And also, may I say, many talking therapists have been looking for description rather than depiction. So they've been working with the wrong hemisphere. They've been working with language centers, which don't have the pathways to where the traumas and the insults and the injuries are held in the brain. So can you talk out your way out of it? You might be able to. You might be able to, but that isn't what the brain thinks, because next to nobody is afraid of the words. It's the pictures.
Right.
And so we need to be able to go to where it is. The Tibetans have been saying this forever, that it's no good to not depict. It's no good not to select the picture you're talking about. It's the picture that you need to change. And the description can change 1,000,000 times without altering the picture. And then you're still in the picture.
Right.
But what the breath does immediately takes us to a place where the nervous system is reassured, so it isn't going to be traumatized by pictures. And it makes the pictures plastic. So
is this getting closer to what you sometimes call sort of memory reconsolidation?
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's that. I mean, one of the great natures of the reality is plastic, is the reality, the special reality that's in your head of words and pictures that are made up that don't exist, is completely pliable. I do this thing, I don't know if it's interesting to you, but one of the things when I'm doing yogic eye movement and this old Tibetan stuff, I'll ask them about a memory. I won't be interested in what the memory is, but I'll ask them 3 questions about it. I'll say, is it moving or is it still? Is it color? Is it black and white? Are you in it or through your eyes? Now, 3 of those answers will tell you it's a fake memory. And in fact, all 6 will. But the 3 that are really obvious is, are you in it? Is it moving or is it still? Still like a photo. So often, it's about 50-50, still as like a photo. Well, that didn't happen then, did it? So you weren't ever in a photo.
Right.
And then color or black and white, it's about 30% black and white to 70% color. Well, if it's black and white, that didn't happen either. And then if you were in it or through your eyes, hello.
You're behind the camera as well.
Right. So there's these kind of things that are unacknowledged in the plasticity of reality, that even if you're doing a spreadsheet, right, and you've got someone muttering in your head going, oh, not that column, that's a special reality, an imaginary reality, while you're doing the most mundane, logical thing. And this isn't noticed. And many talking therapists haven't noticed this. Not everyone. Some talking therapists are brilliant. But if you are looking to be brilliant plus, let's give you something that will do that. Something that's going to serve you in a post-COVID world in a way that description alone will not. Because the brain is not going to be able to make sense of how come it was you that got it and not someone else.
Excellent. Now, before we go, we've just got a couple of minutes. But, you know, some people who are watching this and they won't be able to make it to our workshop, they may never see or hear from us again, but there's something that you've been encouraging me to engage with for a while, and you often say, it's important. It's not important to my marriage, but it is important to my health and well-being, and that is mouth tape. So, for those that haven't heard about this, essentially the benefits that may be gained from adding a little bit of micropore tape to your mouth, as Ben is sporting right now, keeping your mouth shut at night. Why is this important? Why is this important?
Me and my wife, who's not into any of this, but does wear it now, says, she said, you're putting us under voluntary mouth arrest, which is very the thing is, if you knew what I knew, you wouldn't doubt it for a second. Not only does it stop snoring and stops you peeing in the night, it oxygenates the brain 20% more than not. It's so powerful that dentists recommend it because it prevents cavities. So something's going on there, and that's because of the saliva that it generates with saliva is amazing. It contains opiorphin, which is your body's own opium and morphine. It's the strongest pain remover we've ever found, which is why your own saliva feels nice. But
so this is principally, this is to encourage us to breathe through our nose at
yes,
night.
it is. Yes, it is, because sleep apnea and breathing through your mouth, 1 billion people in the world have it, and their health is wrecked by it.
Right.
Absolutely, in unpredictable ways. And we saw this at sleep clinic where people who had CPAP masks at night and stopped being mouth breathers at night, their diabetes too started to clear up. And there's a brilliant professor called Beatrice Gollum at UCLA who says that these problems are not an energy surfeit, they are an oxygen deficit. And that makes complete sense when you see that it isn't even the amount of glucose that you consume that's the problem. It would be the glucamine of how your receptors process that. Right? It's not even about the amount, it's about how they're actually worked, which is how come you can get them to be recalibrated through fasting and things like this. Not that that's what I'm recommending. But my thing is this: you can lose weight by putting sleep tape on your mouth at night. Your skin will improve because the nitric oxide, which is beautiful and brilliant for the skin, as is the oxygenation. If you snore, which many over 40 do, and many under 40 do, that's going to improve the quality of your relationship. Right? All of this stuff, but my wife was a big fan of it because of the slenderness that it gave, but also the quality of her skin as a result. And she'd been prepared to do any manner of things for her skin in pots and creams and potions and lotions. And I think many men would do the same these days, actually. I don't think there's even that much of a gender bias maybe people a bit younger than me, I don't know. So to hydrate, but it's really the one that gets people in is the not peeing at night, because people don't realize that it's not natural to pee at night. This is a hormonal imbalance between vasopressin and oxytocin. If you're getting up and peeing at night, not good. If you're thirsty at night, not good. If you need a pint of water by the bed, not good. If your mouth wakes up in the morning, not good. These are not good things. These are bad things. So nearly everybody who has picked up on the sleep tape thing, their lives have drastically improved for pennies.
Yep.
Pennies.
A couple of pounds and you can get yourself some 3M micro pore tape. There you go.
That's it.
You got the fat roll.
I've got the fat roll. Yeah. I've got a fat mouth. Good.
All right. I think we should leave it there. Thank you for going so deep on those questions. If you're watching this and you have any more, then feel free to make a comment, leave us a question, send us an email, and I would encourage you to join us on February the 4th from 7 p.m. till 9 p.m. UK time for the Breath for Therapists workshop, where you're going to get the chance to experience some of what we've been talking about. There will be some definite takeaway that you will be able to, enhance your life and well-being with. Happy?
Delighted.
Good. Okay. I'll see you soon, Ben.
See ya.
Bye-bye.